Chapter 83. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since that's the case, the minister will speak bluntly. The Minister of Right said slowly, "Since your Majesty ascended the throne, there has been no queen, and this matter cannot be delayed any longer. The position of Empress is extremely important, not only for the mother's ceremonies, but also for the stability of the harem. I hope your Majesty will make a decision soon." As soon as he said this, the officials present all fell silent. Establishing a queen is no small matter. It stands to reason that Qin Jin did not establish a queen, and they should have made a statement long ago, but these important ministers were all lucky enough to survive under Emperor Xia's sword, and they really didn't want to risk their lives to get involved in the disputes in the harem. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that Qin Jin's favorite is concubine Zhao and concubine Zhao's daughter Qin Zining. But at the beginning, Emperor Xia appointed concubine Li Shu as the empress. They stand up, no matter who they recommend to be the queen, in the end they may be doomed. After standing, Qin Jin was slightly silent when he heard the words, and then murmured, "I have been busy with state affairs, and I really don't want to waste my energy on other things, but now that I have been on the throne for so long, this matter really shouldn't be delayed any longer." Gone. After all, it is not as simple as a sentence. All kinds of etiquette, sacrifices, ceremonies. It will take a few months to get busy, and he didn't want to waste time on it, but he also knew that this kind of thing could not continue to drag on. Hearing that Qin Jin had made a decision, all the ministers present held their breath. "I don't know who His Majesty wants to make queen," the Minister of Rights asked slowly. "This kind of question can only be asked by him, and he must be asked." Why did I Ching ask this question? That when Qin Jin heard this question, he asked in confusion, "Didn't I promise my father a long time ago that I would make concubine Shu my queen?" That since he had made a promise at the beginning, he would strictly fulfill it. Otherwise, how could he set an example for many ministers if the order was changed day and night? Concubine Li Shu, as soon as this statement came out, many people were surprised. They originally thought that Qin Jin would definitely make concubine Zhao the queen, because Qin Jin obviously loves concubine Zhao more, and concubine Zhao's daughter Qin Zining has a peerless sword body. In addition, in the future, many soldiers of the Jinbei army will definitely be transferred away, and the status of the Jinbei general will also decline. The significance of making concubine Shu the queen will not be so great, but he didn't expect that Qin Jin would fulfill his original promise and make concubine Shu his queen. This is beyond the expectations of many people. "What, is there a problem?" Looking at the astonished appearance of Shangshu of the Ministry of Rights and the others, Qin Jin asked suspiciously. From the beginning to the end, he never thought of breaking his promise. "No. No problem." Many ministers shook their heads quickly. Qin Jin had already made a decision, and he still kept his previous promise, so how dare they have any opinions? "Okay, this matter is settled like this. Whoever wants to say, just speak freely." Qin Jin said with a smile. However, just after he finished speaking, a commander of the Imperial Forest Army hurried to Qin Jin's side and whispered a few words in his ear. When many ministers saw this, they all looked puzzled, not understanding what happened. "Su Shijun, a great scholar in the south, is also here for the banquet." Qin Jin was stunned, and then said happily, "Then why are you still standing there? Please invite the old man in." In the current world, there are only 2 or 3 who can be called great Confucians. These great Confucians have a unique style, are naturally arrogant, treat wealth and official positions like dung, and are merciless when criticizing the imperial court, and are respected by scholars all over the world. Before holding the banquet, it's not that Qin Jin hadn't thought about inviting Su Shijun, but he felt that the other party would definitely not give him face, so he had no choice but to give up. But he didn't expect that Su Shijun would take the initiative to come to the banquet, so he was naturally overjoyed. As ordered. Hearing this, the commander of the Imperial Forest Army hurriedly invited Su Shijun to come in. Qin Jin also got up excitedly. "My dear friends, Su Shijun, a great scholar in the south, is coming to the banquet. Come with me to greet him." With that said, he headed out of the main hall. Many ministers were surprised when they heard this. Mr. Su actually came here on his own initiative. They were shocked. Among them, there are many people who respect Su Shijun extremely. He hurriedly followed Qin Jin to the outside of the main hall, and at this time, outside the main hall, there was an old figure, holding a wooden box in his right hand, walking towards with a solemn expression. It was Su Shijun. As soon as they saw him, the eyes of many ministers immediately showed respect. The old man has seen His Majesty. After seeing Qin Junyan, Su Shijun was very respectful and bowed in salute. This suddenly made Qin Junyan a little uncomfortable. You must know that even when he saw his father, these great scholars didn't have a very good attitude. The old man is too polite, hurry up and invite him inside. Qin Junyan hurried forward, supported Su Shijun and said, Your Majesty, this old man is here to plead guilty. Su Shijun was not about to enter the palace, but said slowly. Sorry. Qin Junyan was stunned, and said, What is the old man talking about? What is your crime? The old man is not strict in discipline, and the younger brother in the family has committed a serious crime of treason. Su Shijun said slowly. Not only Qin Junyan, but also many ministers were stunned by these words, their faces full of doubts. Although the Su family is a family in the south, they have been engaged in literature for generations. Although there are some followers in the family, they are not very strong. How could someone commit the crime of treason? Why did the old gentleman say that? Qin Junyan asked puzzledly. Concubine Shu and her elder brother, who is the general of Jinbei, intend to rebel. When returning to Li's family to visit relatives, she asked her younger brother for the highly poisonous narcissus powder, intending to poison His Majesty first. Su Shijun said slowly. As soon as this statement came out, all the officials present were shocked. His words, like a boulder thrown into the calm lake, immediately stirred up thousands of waves. What did the old man say? Qin Junyan wondered if he had heard it wrong, and said, Concubine Shu and his elder brother intend to rebel and poison me to death. How is this possible? He didn't believe it at all. If someone else had said that, he would have been furious a long time ago. He was not angry because Su Shijun was a great Confucian in the south with a very high status, but he didn't believe it, because although the Jinbei general has a large army, his family members are all in the south, and military supplies need to be transported from the south, and the generals in the east, west and south have more soldiers and horses in their hands than the Jinbei army. What's more, among the Jinbei army, there is only one strong man in the first level of the Zifu realm. If Concubine Shu and her brother want to rebel, they will definitely lose. There is no benefit other than getting a fate of death and extermination of the 9 clans. What the old man said is absolutely true. Su Shijun said, slowly opened the wooden box, and said, The first time I knew about this, the old man was righteous and killed his relatives, and beheaded the younger brother, and came to the imperial city to apologize. As he spoke, he slowly took out a head from the wooden box. It was the young man who drew his sword and killed himself after meeting Jin Wang Qin Shunzhan. Chapter 84. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Su Shijun's brother's head, everyone present was stunned. Previously, they did not believe that concubine Shu and her elder brother would rebel. I think Su Shijun might just have heard some gossip, but when they saw Su Shijun's brother's head, their thoughts changed. How could Su Shijun, a great contemporary scholar, take his younger brother's life as a joke? How does this benefit him? If your Majesty suspects, I can confront concubine Shu face to face. Su Shijun spoke slowly. Call concubine Shu. Qin Junyan said in a deep voice. Su Shijun even chopped off his younger brother's head and brought it to the palace, and he almost believed in his heart that concubine Shu wanted to poison him. After all, this is a great Confucian in the world. The commander of the Imperial Forest Army next to him heard the words, then turned and left, and went to the harem to take concubine Shu Li Manman. The entire square was eerily quiet. If concubine Shu Li Manman really joined forces with her elder brother, General Jinbei, to rebel, it would be a big deal, and it would cause turmoil in the entire dynasty. Your Majesty, it's not good. But not long after, the commander of the Imperial Forest Army hurried back by himself. What happened? Qin Junyan asked suspiciously after hearing the words. Concubine Shu is dead. Commander of the Imperial Forest Army said. What did you say? Qin Junyan immediately asked. Isn't she in the harem, preparing a banquet with other concubines, waiting for me to go? Why did she die suddenly? Just now my subordinate went down to call concubine Shu. She was obviously nervous and worried about something, but she didn't say anything, and agreed to come down here with my subordinate. The Imperial Army reported truthfully. However, while walking on the road, concubine Shu suddenly became extremely pale and her breathing became short of breath. After she fell to the ground, she lost her breath. After listening to him, everyone present was stunned. Didn't concubine Shu want to poison Qin Jin? Why did he suddenly die? Your Majesty, according to what the commander of the Imperial Forest Army said, concubine Shu is poisoned by narcissus powder. At this time, Su Shijun spoke again, and said slowly, I'm afraid she realized that her plan was exposed, and committed suicide by taking poison in fear of crime. In fact, although narcissus powder is colorless and tasteless, it is not non-toxic. It was Jin Wang Qin Shenzhan who was deceiving concubine Shu. Once narcissus powder is taken, it will kill people in a very short time. When Jin Wang went to see concubine Shu, he sprinkled a special medicinal powder with a fragrance on his body. When chatting, it would enter concubine Shu's body along with his breath, and when Su Shijun and the commander of the Imperial Forest Army rushed over, he sprinkled another kind of medicinal powder on the commander of the Imperial Forest Army silently. Both powders are non-toxic, but at the same time concubine Shu inhaled the two kinds of medicinal powder at the same time. She would be poisoned by narcissus powder immediately. This can create the illusion that concubine Shu commits suicide in fear of crime. The poison from narcissus powder. Suicide in fear of crime. Qin Jin's face was ugly. At this time, the commander of the Imperial Forest Army spoke again. Your Majesty, I found this small jade bottle from concubine Shu's ring. As he said, he cupped his hands and took out the small jade bottle. This kind of small jade bottle is what my younger brother used to store medicine on a daily basis, but the old man never thought that he would actually refine poison and colluded with concubine Shu. Su Shijun said with a look of hatred on his face, I also ask your Majesty to come down. As he spoke, he knelt on one knee. You don't have to do that, sir. Qin Jin quickly helped him up, and said, You did not do this matter, and you have done a good job in killing relatives right away and coming all the way to the palace to report. Otherwise, I am afraid that today I will die inexplicably and tragically. The great Confucianism of the time set up a scheme with the life of his younger brother, and concubine Shu Li Man had the heart to kill concubine Zhao with poison. Even Emperor Xia would fall for such a complicated scheme, not to mention Qin Jin who had just ascended the throne. He completely believed in Su Shijun. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your generosity. Su Shijun thanked again. Old man, let's go back to the station and rest, Qin Jin said slowly. It is good. Su Shijun nodded. Then, under the leadership of the people, he left the palace. Your Majesty, what should we do now? After Su Shijun left, many important officials said one after another. First, find someone who has committed a capital crime to test to see if concubine Shu is poisoned by the poison in this little jade bottle. Qin Jin said solemnly. At the same time, let the generals guarding the east, west, and south positions of the imperial court immediately dispatch 20 troops to join the elite soldiers in the imperial city camp. The Zhenbei army has an army of 50, he was very cautious, so he mobilized 70 troops. According to the order. Many ministers present were all respectful. The longevity banquet ended immediately, and many ministers became busy. There were also several important ministers who also put forward specific suggestions one after another, such as letting the armies coming from the other three directions not come to the imperial city to meet up, but go north directly to attack the northern army. Jiniwei Zhenfusha proposed to directly control the members of the Su family, so as to deter the general of Zhenbei. However, these were all vetoed by Qin Jin, and he was still a little hard to believe that Li Fengqi, the general who suppressed the north, would rebel and commit suicide. He ordered people to go to the north immediately and summon Li Fengqi back to the palace, although Qin Jin asked Jiniwei to block the news, but with the efforts of King Jin and others, the news that Zhenbei Great General Li Fengqi colluded with his younger sister concubine Shu to poison the emperor for rebellion quickly spread throughout the great Xia dynasty. For a time people were panicking. that is the 50 elite army in the north. If the army goes south, how many cities will be destroyed and how many people will be displaced? In the camp of the Chinese army of the Jinbei army in the north, General Li Fengqi, who received the news, was stunned, although he was dissatisfied with the court's desire to transfer part of the Jinbei army's soldiers and horses. But why did you ever think about rebelling? In the north, Li Fengqi was the emperor of the soil, and he never risked the extermination of the 9 clans to rebel. General, the people from the imperial court have arrived and want the general to return to the imperial city to face the saint. At this time, a lieutenant general came to the camp of the Chinese army and said respectfully to Li Fengqi, "Let me go back to the imperial city to face the saint." Hearing this, Li Fengqi immediately said, "Where is the man from the imperial court? Take me to see him." He felt that Qin Jin still believed him, otherwise, no one would come to summon him. However, at this time, another lieutenant general came to report. "General, King Jin is here." The lieutenant general said in a deep voice, "If you don't see him right away, you will definitely regret it. This barracks is protected by a large formation, and there are 50 troops capable of forming a battle formation." Jin Wang Qin Shenzhan did not dare to force his way even if he was accompanied by 2 strong men from the second level of the Purple Mansion realm. "Otherwise, there is absolutely no place to die. We can only let the deputy general come to report to Li Fengqi." "King Jin is here." Li Fengqi was surprised. He didn't expect that King Jin would come at this time. After pondering for a while, he said slowly, "Let King Jin come in first, and I'll see what King Jin wants from me first." "It is good." The lieutenant general nodded, and then withdrew from the Chinese army to enlist. Not long after, a figure in a black robe slowly walked into the camp of the Chinese army. It was Jin Wang Qin Shenzhan. Chapter 85 Raising Troops. You are listening at novelfull.audio. General Li still wants to see Qin Jin in the imperial city at this time. Isn't he afraid of death without a place to die? Having entered the camp of the Chinese army, Qin Shenzhan said coldly. "Why did King Jin say such a thing?" Li Fengqi said, "I will explain everything clearly when I return to the imperial city this time. With His Majesty's wisdom, you should know that I have no intention of rebellion at all." "Ha ha." Qin Shenzhan laughed out loud when he heard the words, and said, "General, did you really think that Qin Jin didn't know that you didn't plan to rebel? All of this is just Qin Jin's plan. He killed your sister to force you to rebel. He likes to sow dissension the most, and he has been tried and tested repeatedly." "Nonsense, why does your Majesty force me to rebel against you?" Li Fengqi didn't believe it at all. "It's not easy. Qin Jin never thought of making your sister queen." Qin Shenzhan said coldly, "Only by accusing you and your sister of treason, can he make concubine Zhao the empress without being reprimanded for violating the late emperor's will and breaking promises. It's just your guess after all." Li Fengqi's face was extremely ugly, and he said coldly, "He, even if this is just my guess, Qin Jin thinks that your rebellion is just a misunderstanding, but do you think that after Qin Jin's investigation of you from beginning to end, you will have a good end?" Qin Shenzhan sneered and said, "Over the years, how much military salary have you embezzled while guarding the north? How many women have been sold as slaves in the northern wilderness? How many people's land have you seized? After Qin Jin has found out these things, even if you have no intention of rebelling, he will definitely crush you." Before the plan was implemented, he had already investigated Li Fengqi clearly. Qin Shenzhan can find out things that the court cannot find out, because Li Fengqi is doing most of these things. He knows better than anyone how Li Fengqi will do these things, and how he will hide them. Corrupt officials are always investigating corrupt officials. Hearing Qin Shenzhan's words, Li Fengqi broke out in a cold sweat. Just now, he only thought that he did not rebel, but he forgot what he had done, so he couldn't stand Qin Jin's investigation at all. "If you want to survive now, there is only one way to go," Qin Shenzhan said slowly. "What way?" Li Fengqi asked in a deep voice. "Rise up," Qin Shenzhan said word by word. "Rise, soldiers." Even though he had already guessed what Qin Shenzhan was going to say, After hearing these 2 words, Li Fengqi's face was still extremely pale. He said with an ugly face, "I only have 50 troops under my command, and even if I add the 2 Purple Mansion realm powerhouses I secretly recruited, there are only 3 in total. If you raise an army, you will definitely lose." He is still very clear about how many caddies and tails he has. "If it's a dead end, why would I let you do it?" Qin Shenzhan said slowly. "You raised troops in the north to attract the imperial army to encircle and suppress, while I and the other 4 vassal kings set out from the south, sneaked into Qinsang, and gave the imperial army a fatal blow from behind." Hearing what he said, Li Fengqi, who was originally pale, suddenly lit up. "Okay. If all the feudal lords join forces, we will definitely be able to destroy the imperial army this time." Li Fengqi was overjoyed. He thought he was dead, but he didn't expect that Qin Xuanshan's arrival would bring him a way out. Immediately, the 2 began to discuss the specific details of attacking the imperial army. In the next month, the great Xia dynasty was full of turmoil. Li Fengqi, the general of Xinbei, played the slogan of the side of the Qin dynasty, and led an army of 52 rebel people in the world are in panic. This 50 army guards the north all year round, resists the northern barbarians, and deters the demon sect. All of them are elites. There is even the most high-level battle formation in the entire Great Xia dynasty. Although the imperial court has assembled 70 troops in the imperial city, and there are several strong men in the Purple Mansion, it is still difficult to stabilize the hearts of the people, and various rumors are everywhere. In many cities in the north, the guards looked down on the wind and did not dare to resist. In order to stabilize the hearts of the people in the world, Qin Jin directly announced to the world that he would personally conquer and defeat the 50 army led by Li Fengqi. Under his leadership, an army of 70 marched mightily towards the north. Qin Jin never thought of defending the imperial city, because if this is the case, it is tantamount to abandoning the people in the north and letting them be ravaged and looted by the northern army. After a long time, if the people's hearts are lost, even if he has an army of 70, he may not be able to defend the imperial city. Compared to the hustle and bustle outside, the Imperial Mausoleum was much calmer. Although Qin Feng is still lying on the reclining chair, his current consciousness is in the space of spiritual consciousness, condensing his spiritual consciousness. After so many long hours of hard work, in the space of Qin Feng's spiritual consciousness, a prototype was finally condensed successfully, emitting strange fluctuations. The outline of the prototype looks similar to Qin Feng, a small man sitting cross-legged. It's just that this figure is extremely blurry, and only the outline can be seen clearly, but the specific appearance is not clear. "Should we be able to condense successfully this time?" Qin Feng muttered to himself. This is the closest he has come to success since he practiced the concentration art, and he was a little excited. However, as soon as Qin Feng's words fell, the silhouette in the space of spiritual consciousness shattered and turned into strands of spiritual consciousness, disappearing in the dark space of spiritual consciousness, as if it never existed. Gathering consciousness failed again. Cough cough. Qin Feng, who was on the recliner, coughed and his face was pale. Every time he fails to condense his spiritual consciousness, it will cause huge damage to his spiritual consciousness. Compared with normal times, Qin Feng's perception of the surrounding world has become much weaker. "Hey! Could it be that my consciousness is not strong enough?" Qin Feng shook his head helplessly. He couldn't even remember how many times he had failed. However, Qin Feng was not discouraged. He casually took out 3 Yangshan pills from the ring, and swallowed them, then prepared to try to gather the consciousness again. Under normal circumstances, no matter whether a cultivator fails to break through or to gather spiritual consciousness, he will not dare to continue again without 5 or 6 years to recover, because if there is a little carelessness, there is a risk of death. But Qin Feng didn't care at all. He has a lot of nourishing pills, which can restore the damaged consciousness, this kind of precious elixir that other cultivators would enshrine as a treasure when they got one. To Qin Feng, it was not much different from ordinary jelly beans. But just when Qin Feng was about to continue gathering his spiritual consciousness, Chu Xiong, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, came to the imperial tomb. Chapter 86 Bad News. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's too late to react now. Su Shijun said coldly, "The entire inn has been planted with poison by me, and everyone who enters the inn will be poisoned immediately. The aroma just now is the introduction to the highly poisonous, even cultivators below the third level of the Zifu realm. As long as they are poisoned by this kind of poison, the spiritual energy in the body will immediately stop functioning, and the body will be weak. He felt that at Qin Feng's age, even if he was lucky enough to break through to the Purple Mansion realm, he would only be at the first level at most, and he would not be able to withstand his poison at all. It's no wonder that poison refiners are punishable by everyone. Qin Feng said lightly, it's really insidious, it's hard to guard against. If you want to survive, just kneel down obediently and bow your head. If you have good martial arts talent, I can let you be my dead soldier. Su Shijun said slowly, he felt that he was magnanimous enough, and Qin Feng must be grateful. I'm sorry, I'm destined to disappoint you. Qin Feng sneered, and said lightly, since you don't want to talk about Qin Xuanshan's plan, then I'll take a look by myself. While speaking, he took a step forward and came in front of Su Shijun. The old servant just wanted to make a move, but was immediately suppressed by the fluctuation of spiritual energy emanating from Qin Feng's body, and knelt down on the ground. His face was pale and he couldn't move. What? You are not affected by this poison. Seeing Qin Feng's unaffected appearance, Su Shijun's face was full of disbelief, and he said, how could this be? Probably because I'm already in the void refining realm. While Qin Feng was speaking, mysterious runes slowly appeared in his eyes. Start watching Su Shijun's consciousness. No. Although Su Shijun looked like a proud Confucian literati on weekdays, he was actually extremely cowardly, unable to bear the pain of Qin Feng watching his spiritual memory, and screamed. It's a pity that the voice was blocked by the spiritual energy fluctuations outside Qin Feng's body, so it couldn't come out at all. Not long after, Qin Feng checked all of Su Shijun's memories. Not only did he know Qin Xuanshan's plan, but he also got a lot of poison refining formulas. How could you be in the void refining realm? Looking at Qin Feng in horror, Su Shijun said out of breath, because Qin Feng is really too young. There has never been such a monstrous genius in the entire history of Kanglanyu. Neither he nor the old servant beside him could believe it. What's the use of knowing? It's not a dead end. Qin Feng said lightly. As he said that, the aura released from his body directly crushed Su Shijun and the others into blood mist. Afterwards, Qin Feng used the exercises, and all the poison in the entire station was absorbed into his body by him. Although this poison has no effect on me, it is quite good if it is used to quench the body. Feeling the poison entering his body, Qin Feng muttered to himself. He originally wanted to see how poisonous this poison was, but his body was too strong to ignore this poison at all. If Su Shijun heard these words, he might come back to life with anger. The highly poisonous poison he worked so hard to refine. Hundreds of people died just to test the poison, but in front of Qin Feng, it can only be used to temper the body. Qin Feng didn't stay at the station, but walked out and looked in the direction outside the imperial city. Qin Shenzhan colluded with the other 4 great feudal lords, and cooperated with Li Fengqi to attack the 70 troops led by Jianyan. Qin Feng muttered to himself, and said, if this is the case, isn't Jianyan sure to lose? Although the laws of the Great Xia stipulated that the number of personal soldiers that the vassal kings of various places can train is very limited, the 5 vassal kings are quietly training soldiers in secret, with a total of nearly 60, and because of the opening of the spiritual path, a large number of natural materials and earthly treasures were brought out, resulting in the emergence of a large number of strong people in the Purple Mansion realm in the Kanglan domain. The number of strong men from the Zifu realm invited by several feudal lords at a huge price was no less than that led by Qin Jianyan. They fought back and forth with Li Fengqi. Even if Qin Jianyan had an army of 70, he would definitely be defeated. It's a pity that Su Shijun doesn't know Qin Xuanshan's specific plan, and he doesn't know where the armies of several feudal lords will meet. Qin Feng muttered to himself, otherwise, I'll find them directly and destroy them. The numerical advantage of hundreds of thousands of troops is still effective for cultivators below the 5th level of the Purple Mansion realm, but for practitioners above the 5th level of the Purple Mansion realm, they are no different from ants. Shaking his head, Qin Feng left the imperial city and flew towards the north. although he didn't know where Qin Shun's Han and the other vassal kings would join up and head north. He knew that the purpose of these people was definitely to attack. From behind the army led by Qin Jin, he just waited slowly. In the next 2 months or so, the war in the north continued fiercely. Qin Jin led an army of 70, occupying an absolute advantage in the war, conquer the city all the way, repel the army led by Li Fengqi from Yanmen Pass, and prepare to completely defeat it at Yanmen Pass. The originally flustered emotions also stopped spreading. Qin Jin, who was personally enlisted, and many accompanying ministers also breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the rebellion will soon be quelled. Outside Yanmen Pass, the remaining 60 troops were stationed. In the camp of the Chinese army, Qin Jin was listening to several important ministers and generals discussing how to defeat Li Fengqi's army. This majestic Yanmen Pass is easy to defend but difficult to attack, and it is protected by formations. They were discussing how to conquer Yanmen Pass with the least cost. Your Majesty. A secret report sent by Jiniwei Zhenfu envoy, that at this time, a soldier hurriedly came to the tent of the Chinese army, knelt on one knee and said. A secret report from Jiniwei's governor. Qin Jin was a little puzzled when he heard this. Now Li Fengqi's army has been trapped to death in Yanmen Pass, and they know the deployment of troops clearly. Why is Jiniwei Zhenfu envoy so anxious to send a secret report? With doubts in his heart, Qin Jin opened it to check. The next moment, his expression was stiff. What's wrong, Your Majesty? Seeing this, several other generals and important ministers asked in doubt. The king of Jin and his 5 feudal lords joined forces to rebel, leading an army of 60, and more than a dozen strong men from the Purple Mansion are marching here. Qin Jin's expression was extremely ugly, and he said, according to the information collected by Jiniwei, they will arrive here in at most 2 days. The place where Qin Shun's Han and his vassal lords trained their soldiers was originally very secret. During this period of time, they led their own soldiers to train and went northward from various places quietly. It was only a few days ago that they gathered on a large scale, and then they were discovered by Jiniwei. P.S. I will explain why the other great dynasties did not take advantage of the opportunity to carve up the great Xia dynasty. The novels I write generally don't have major logical problems. Chapter 87. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? King Jin and the others all joined forces to rebel. The faces of many ministers and generals also changed suddenly when they heard the words. Ever since Emperor Xia started preparing for Qin Jin to succeed him, the vassal kings everywhere have become very honest and have never done anything excessive. Even Qin Jin's enthronement ceremony did not cause trouble, and he was even more restrained than before. They thought that many vassal kings had settled down, but they didn't expect that. They would take advantage of this time to directly rebel. There are more than 60 troops. If we are attacked by 2 sides, I am afraid it will be dangerous. General Jinan said in a deep voice. Because the south had to deter the barbarians, the general of Jinan had rich experience in commanding troops, and he was also the main one in the battle with Li Fengqi's army during this period. That's right, we must not be caught between 2 sides. After a pause, Qin Jin asked, is it possible for us to defeat Li Fengqi's army in Yanmen Pass within 2 days, and then use Yanmen Pass as a natural danger to defend against King Jin's attack? Hearing what he said, General Jinan smiled bitterly and said, Yanmen Pass is too dangerous. If we want to defeat Li Fengqi's army, it will take at least half a month. 2 days is simply impossible. The other generals present also showed helplessness. If Yanmen Pass was not dangerous enough, Li Fengqi would not have retreated to Yanmen Pass. So what should I do now? A minister said anxiously. I'm afraid we can only retreat temporarily and go to the nearest city to defend, and at the same time let more troops be mobilized from various places to help. General Jinan's face was serious, and he said in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, there was silence in the camp of the Chinese army. Everyone knew that this was the best way, but no one dared to agree, because they were worried that Qin Jin would not agree to retreat. After all, they paid a huge price for the fierce fighting in the past few months, and they forced Li Fengqi to the point of no return. If they just retreat like this, no one will be reconciled, and it is very likely to damage the majesty of the emperor. That being the case, follow what the general said, evacuate this place first to prevent being attacked from both sides. Qin Jin did not hesitate at all, and spoke directly. His biggest advantage is that he knows people well and knows how to lead troops in battle is not his specialty. The purpose of this expedition is just to boost morale, regarding specific decisions on the battlefield. As long as General Jinnan's decision was not opposed by other generals, he never raised any objections. As for damaging the majesty of the emperor, he doesn't care. What he wants is peace in the world and the people live and work in peace and contentment, not his face. According to the order. General Jinnan saw that Qin Jin did not reject his proposal, so he said right away. They were all preparing to leave the camp and arrange specific matters for the retreat. After all, the retreat must be methodical to prevent Li Fengqi's army from counterattacking. However, at this moment, the deafening sound of war drums sounded outside. Your Majesty, Li Fengqi in Yanmen Pass has sent troops on his own initiative. A lieutenant general hurried over to the camp of the Chinese army, panting. Li Fengqi took the initiative to send troops. Qin Jin was startled, and said, he retired here. Didn't he intend to stick to it? God help your Majesty, that the other important ministers said joyfully. If Li Fengqi goes out to the decisive battle, they will undoubtedly win, and they don't have to worry about being pinched from both sides. But General Jinnan's face was serious. Li Fengqi's exit is probably not good news for us. He said in a deep voice, if he doesn't fight us decisively, but just holds us back and prevents us from retreating, then our situation will be very difficult. Hearing what he said, Qin Jin's expression also suddenly became ugly. Although Li Fengqi's army had been severely injured, it still had hundreds of thousands of people. It would be an easy task to hold them back for 2 days and prevent them from retreating. What do you think the general should do? Qin Jin asked. No matter what, Li Fengqi has taken the initiative to send troops. We have to try, whether he wants to fight us or hold us back. General Jinnan said helplessly, under such circumstances, if they forcibly retreated, they would only be overtaken by Li Fengqi's army. Hearing this, Qin Jin could only nod his head, and then ask General Jinnan to lead his troops to meet him personally, to see if he could wipe out Li Fengqi's army in one fell swoop. However, they were destined to be disappointed. Li Fengqi had already made a plan with Jin Wang, Qin Shenzhan and the others. The reason why he took the initiative to leave Yanmen Pass was to harass and hold back the 70 troops led by Qin Jin for 2 days. I didn't think about a decisive battle at all. In the next 2 days, the 60 troops led by King Jin and the other 4 vassal kings rushed all the way in the direction of Yanmen Pass. The entire army moved forward in the form of a battle formation, ready to fight at any time, exuding a powerful and chilling aura, which made people daunting. The news that they were raising troops to attack Qin Jin with Li Fengqi on both sides quickly spread throughout the entire dynasty, and there was a sudden panic. After learning that King Jin had an army of 60, almost the aristocratic families and sects in the dynasty felt that Qin Jin's army would undoubtedly be defeated. A large number of ancient ships headed to the south day and night, sending generous gifts to King Jin, hoping to please the future emperor. My lord, we should be able to arrive at Yanmen Pass this evening. On the way of marching, some generals greeted King Jin respectfully. King Qin Shenzhan of Jin was riding a golden lion, wearing heavy armor, looking extremely fierce. Very good. Qin Shenzhan said coldly, Li Fengqi has already sent me the news that in the past 2 days, he has held back Qin Jin's army, making it impossible for him to withdraw. As long as we arrive today and wipe out Qin Jin's army in one fell swoop, I'm waiting for this world. When he spoke, his eyes were full of greed and excitement. Ha ha. King Qi and several other vassals also laughed. This operation is so easy, thanks to King Jin's careful planning. That's right, if it weren't for King Jin, how could we have won the world so easily? They all praised Qin Shenzhan. It seemed as if he had already seen himself standing on the imperial city, overlooking the world. After all, as long as the army they lead can reach Yanmen Pass, the overall situation will be settled. It's not all my fault. Qin Shenzhan said indifferently, if it weren't for the help of several people, my 15 army would not be able to achieve great things. Although he already had a plan to use Su Shijun's poison to target several other vassal kings, he still couldn't show it. King Jin is humble. Several other vassals said with a smile. Qin Shenzhan didn't say anything more, and continued to walk towards Yanmen Pass with the army. However, not long after, the army stopped suddenly. Chapter 88. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What happened? That the army stopped suddenly. Jin Wang, Qin Shenzhan and others who were in the middle army all had doubts on their faces. At this time, some generals from the front army hurried over. My lord, there is someone blocking the way in front of the army. The general said in a hurry. You bastard. Wouldn't it be fine if someone blocked the way and killed him? Do you still need to report to us? Qin Shenzhan said angrily. Before the confluence of several armies, in order to hide the news of their going north, they killed a lot of people. Almost all the villages and towns that passed by were completely slaughtered. That's right. Just kill him. Can he stop our 60 army by himself? Several other vassal kings also scolded one after another. They felt that they were about to fight Qin Junyin's army, but now the army suddenly stopped, which was very unlucky. My lord, it's not that I don't want to kill, but that person looks too strong, the general said helplessly. I'm afraid he is a strong man in the Purple Mansion. A strong man in the Purple Mansion realm? Qin Shenzhan frowned slightly when he heard the words, and said, could it be that Qin Junyin couldn't allocate any troops to stop us, so he sent a Purple Mansion realm practitioner to stop us? It's possible. The other feudal kings all nodded their heads. I think Qin Xuanshan's analysis makes sense. Since that's the case. A chill appeared in Qin Xuanshan's eyes, and he said, then let some of the Zifu realm powerhouses we invite take action and chop off his head to sacrifice to the flag. Boost morale. It is good. Several other vassal kings nodded one after another. Immediately, Qin Shenzhan and the others invited the strong men from the Zifu realm they had invited over one after another, and they went to the front of the army together. On the one hand, it was to kill the person who blocked the way, and on the other hand, it was to show their strength to the army and motivate the soldiers. At this time, hundreds of feet away in front of the 60 army, Qin Feng was sitting cross-legged on a boulder, meditating, with sword aura faintly surrounding his body. A few tens of feet ahead, there were hundreds of cavalry who were wiped out by the sword energy. This is the only way to go to Yanmen Pass in the south, ever since Qin Junyin led the army to force Li Fengqi back here. Qin Feng has been waiting here. By the way, gather the consciousness, those cavalrymen were not killed by Qin Feng on his own initiative, they just encountered the sword energy around him, and then died by themselves. Are you enshrined by the royal family? Qin Shenzhan came to the front of the army, looked at each other from a distance, and said coldly, are you here today intending to abandon the dark and turn to the bright, and surrender to us, or are you here as a chariot? The last time he saw Qin Feng was only in his teens. In addition, when Qin Feng was on the road, in order to avoid attracting attention, he did not wear royal clothes, so Qin Shenzhan did not recognize Qin Feng as the former deposed prince at all. Neither. Qin Feng, who failed to condense his consciousness again, slowly opened his eyes, and said lightly, I am here today to kill you all. While speaking, Qin Feng slowly got up and looked indifferently at the 60 army in front of him. As soon as these words came out, Qin Shenzhan and the others were visibly startled, very surprised by Qin Feng's answer, but then there was a burst of laughter. Ha! You are a mere person, and you want to stop my 60 army, more than a dozen Zifu realm powerhouses. Qin Shenzhan laughed, his eyes were full of mockery and joking, and said, I've seen people who are overconfident, but I've never seen someone who is so presumptuous. 60 troops, is that a lot? Qin Feng's expression was indifferent, and he didn't pay attention to the 60 troops. While speaking, he covered a radius of tens of feet, and the almost transparent sword energy began to float. The golden sword soul in his hand also began to slowly condense. It's extremely arrogant. That when Qin Shenzhan heard the words, his eyes were full of chills, and then he ordered a strong man in the Purple Mansion beside him, take his head off for me, and sacrifice the blood to the banner. It is good. Hearing the order, the strong man in the Purple Mansion in black robe agreed in a cold voice. The figure moved instantly, turned into afterimages, and killed Qin Feng at an extremely fast speed. The cultivation at the peak of the first layer of the Purple Mansion realm is undoubtedly revealed. However, Qin Feng didn't make a move at all. The cultivator in the Zifu realm was torn into pieces after hitting the sword energy covering Qin Feng's surroundings with a radius of tens of feet. Dead body, it almost looked like suicide. This scene shocked everyone immediately, and the gazes looking at this place were full of horror. It caused an uproar. What happened just now? This guy didn't make a move at all, and our Purple Mansion realm powerhouse died inexplicably. In the army, various shocking and unbelievable voices sounded one after another. They wondered if they had read wrong just now. That scene was truly astonishing. What's going on? How did he do it? Qin Shenzhan looked at the stumped limbs and arms all over the ground. His eyes were full of horror and disbelief, and his voice was trembling. A strong man in the first level of the Purple Mansion realm didn't even get close to Qin Feng, so he was smashed to pieces. This is too scary. Gudu. King Qi couldn't help swallowing, feeling his throat was dry, and said, This person's cultivation seems to be much stronger than we imagined. Isn't the strongest swordsman among the imperial family's offerings, that old man surnamed Chen? When did there become such a guy? That the other vassal kings are also extremely fearful. Not only them, but the other Zifu realm powerhouses were also frightened by the scene just now, and they all looked at each other in blank dismay. He couldn't even guess what kind of state Qin Feng was in. Damn, so what if he is stronger? Qin Shenzhan suppressed the shock in his heart, and said through gritted teeth, We have an army of 60, and there are so many strong people in the Purple Mansion. I don't believe I can't kill him. Then he issued a military order, 60 troops, wake up the battle formation. Boom. All of a sudden, the aura in the entire world became violent. The battle formation composed of 60 troops is extremely terrifying. In the blink of an eye, all the soldiers were covered in a faint blood-colored light, and their breath was greatly improved. Not only that, but they developed some kind of special connection with each other. In this battle formation, more than half of the damage suffered by any soldier will be shared among the other 60 soldiers. This is very scary. You must know that these soldiers are cultivators in the first place, and with the improvement of the battle formation, they will become stronger one by one. If most of the damage can be shared, even a strong man in the first level of the Zifu realm might not be able to kill many soldiers with all his strength, but would be killed by these soldiers instead. In that case, let's see if your 60 army can withstand my sword. Qin Feng said indifferently. While speaking, in his right hand, a golden sword soul has been condensed successfully. The sword soul is condensed from pure sword intent, surrounded by golden mysterious and complicated inscriptions on the hilt, revealing an extremely terrifying sword intent. Extremely arrogant. Kill me. Qin Shenzhan shouted loudly. Hundreds of thousands of troops were about to rush towards Qin Feng. The light emanating from each soldier is even more dazzling and resplendent. Boom. However, at this moment, 100-foot-long golden sword glow swept towards these soldiers. This golden sword glow released a terrifying sword intent. Along the way, a terrible gully appeared on the ground, as if to tear the earth apart. Chapter 89, The Corpse Exorcist. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at this terrifying sword light, no matter the 60 army or those strong men in the Purple Mansion realm, they all felt great fear. His eyes were full of panic, and he felt that he couldn't resist it at all. But now they have no way out, so they can only bite the bullet and go forward. Boom. The two sides collided together, and a terrifying energy fluctuation erupted between the heaven and the earth, deafening. The raging energy, like a tsunami, swept away from this place as the center. Wherever it passed, no matter whether it was a boulder or a tree, it was instantly turned into dust and turned into a barren wasteland. It was as if the end had come. Such a terrifying scene lasted for a long time, and it gradually subsided as the energy fluctuations gradually dissipated. The 60 army, under Qin Feng's terrifying sword, the battle formation collapsed, tens of thousands of casualties. The rest of them were also injured to varying degrees. In a short period of time, they lost their combat effectiveness and lay on the ground moaning in pain. Even the strong people from the Purple Mansion realm who were invited were like this, not much better than those soldiers. The scene was extremely shocking. On the other hand, Qin Feng, under this terrifying energy fluctuation, was not harmed at all, and even did not move at all. Only the clothes fluttered in the wind, as graceful as a fairy. No. How is this possible? This is impossible. Looking at the scene in front of him, Qin Shenzhan made an unbelievable voice, his 60 troops, there are more than a dozen strong men in the Purple Mansion realm, can't even hold a sword. As I said just now, a mere 60 troops can't stop me. Qin Feng's expression was indifferent, he didn't intend to kill, because Qin Jianyan led the army to fight Li Fengqi. Both sides must have suffered heavy losses, these soldiers can just supplement the Jinbei army and several other armies. You. At this moment, Qin Xuanshan's eyes were full of panic, and he couldn't even speak. Stop talking nonsense, your body can be borrowed from me. Qin Feng, who had just absorbed the yin energy in the battlefield with the magic beads, said indifferently, while speaking, he waved his sleeves, and the majestic spiritual energy directly turned into a gust of wind, sweeping towards Qin Shenzhan and the others. Do not. Amidst the terrified screams, all of Qin Shenzhan and the others were swept away by the gust of wind and fell towards the distant mountains. Qin Feng didn't stay here either, he turned around and left, leaving the remaining army of more than 50 troops, all of them extremely at a loss. I wonder if I had a nightmare. Their 60 troops were originally going to wipe out Qin Jianyan's army, but suddenly, they were killed one by one with a sword, and even King Jin and the others were taken away. Who was that strong man just now? Could it be the strong swordsman who once beheaded the ancient corpse of the exorcising sect? According to the rumors, isn't he not related to the great Xia royal family? That the voice of discussion kept ringing among these soldiers. When they spoke, their words were filled with unbelievable fear, even though the soldiers who could see Qin Feng's appearance in front of the army just now were all wiped out by that sword. The remaining soldiers didn't even see Qin Feng's appearance, but in their minds, a vague figure holding a long sword was forever engraved in the seal, which will never be forgotten. At the same time, in a dense forest, Qin Shenzhan and others who were swept by the strong wind fell down heavily, and just as they landed, Qin Feng had already arrived. You, who are you? Why do you want to help Qin Jianyan? That looking at Qin Feng in horror, Qin Shenzhan and the other feudal lords were puzzled. In their view, Qin Feng is at least the 7th or 8th level of the Purple Mansion realm, or even stronger, an invincible existence in the entire Kanglan territory. They really couldn't figure out what kind of conditions Qin Jianyan had offered to invite a strong man like Qin Feng to help. Because he is my third brother, is that enough reason? Qin Feng said lightly. As soon as this remark came out, Qin Shenzhan and the others were startled, obviously not reacting. After a while, everyone's complexion changed suddenly. Qin Feng. You are actually Qin Feng. That at this moment, they finally understood why they thought Qin Feng looked familiar at the beginning. In this world, there are only 2 people who can call Qin Jianyan the third younger brother, but Qin Feng was the only one they hadn't seen for many years, and he didn't even show up at Qin Jianyan's enthronement ceremony. But you are only less than 100 years old now, how could you be so strong? Qin Xuanshan's eyes were full of inconceivable words, not to mention that they had never heard of Qin Feng's extraordinary talent. Even if Qin Feng was really gifted, he should have lost his martial arts long ago after being imprisoned in the Imperial Mausoleum for so many years. I'm going to die anyway, what's the use of knowing so much? Qin Feng said lightly. While speaking, there was a faint wave of aura on his palm. You, what are you going to do? Looking at Qin Feng in front of them, Qin Shenzhan, several other feudal lords, and the powerhouses of the Zifu realm were all incomparably terrified. Qin Feng defeated 60 troops so easily, which made them fully aware of Qin Feng's horror, but they didn't understand why Qin Feng didn't kill them directly, but brought them into this dense forest. He didn't understand what Qin Feng was going to do to them. Didn't you just say it? Let me use your body. Qin Feng said lightly, come try my corpse control technique. How is your practice? After comprehending the corpse control technique, he has never actually used it. Now it happens that there are Qin Shenzhan and others, and he plans to refine the bodies of these people and try the corpse control technique. Corpse control technique? Are you a member of the corpse exorcism sect? Hearing this, a strong man in the Zifu realm said in horror, wasn't the exorcist faction wiped out by the mysterious strong man? How come there are such strong people alive? Qin Feng didn't pay attention to the words, quickly formed seals with both hands, and drove one after another rune seals into the bodies of these people. There are dead bodies in the corpse control technique, but there are also living people, although it is simple to refine corpses, few of those corpses can master martial arts in life, and they only fight with their strong bodies. But if the refining directly refines the living person, it will be different. After all, it was his first attempt to use the corpse control technique, so he started from the more difficult aspects. What? Soon, the sound of screams sounded in this dense forest, which was extremely miserable, startled the birds. Qin Shenzhan and the others were extremely regretful at this time, hating themselves for why they had left behind being a good vassal king and rebelled. Don't talk about the throne now, I'm afraid I won't even have a good death. Regarding these people's screams and begging for mercy, Qin Feng's expression was indifferent. Without any mercy, the suffering they are suffering now is really nothing compared to the evil they have done in the past. P.S. Third watch, 3 more, asking for a free gift isn't too much, is it? Chapter 90 King Jin's army is about to arrive. You are listening at novelfull.audio. During these 2 days, the army led by Qin Jin wanted to fight Li Fengqi decisively, but the opponent could not get out of Yanmen Gate. They were about to evacuate Yanmen Pass, but they were all delayed. In addition, the news that King Qin Shenzhan led the army to attack spread in the barracks, which caused the more than 60 troops to panic and their morale was extremely low. Only the 20 people brought by General Jinan and the 10 people in the Imperial City camp can maintain high morale. On the other hand, the army led by Li Fengqi was full of high morale and momentum. Li Fengqi stood at the gate of Yanmen, looking at Qin Jin's army in front of him. His eyes were full of ridicule and banter. General, the news sent by King Jin has just arrived, and the army he leads will soon arrive at Yanmen Pass. A deputy general came to Li Fengqi's side and said respectfully, he told us to go out now and fight Qin Jin's army so that they can attack from behind and defeat them in one fell swoop. Very good. Hearing this, Li Fengqi immediately laughed, and said viciously, I have fought for so many years, but I have never fought so aggrieved. Send an order. The army goes out, and fights to the death with Qin Jin. As ordered. Hearing the words, the deputy general immediately agreed respectfully. The news that Qin Xuanshan's army was coming quickly spread within Yanmen Pass. Hundreds of thousands of troops are preparing to walk out of Yanmen Pass and fight to the death with Qin Jin's army. The two armies confronted each other at such close range, their actions were naturally known to Qin Jin and the others. Your Majesty, it seems that this time Li Fengqi's army is not trying to harass us, but to fight us to the death. General Jinan said with a gloomy expression. Qin Xuanshan's army is almost here. Qin Jin was somewhat unwilling. During these 2 days, they tried their best, but they still couldn't destroy Li Fengqi's army, nor could they successfully evacuate from this place. He knew very well what would happen if Qin Xuanshan's army arrived here, unwilling to fail like this. Your Majesty, let Old Chen and the others escort you away. General Jinan persuaded. That's right, it's too dangerous here, father, please leave first. Qin Zining was also very worried. During this period of time, she killed countless enemies on the battlefield, experienced bloody training, and the aura exuding from her whole body became much more sassy. There is a kind of demeanor of Lu Qingzhu. A country cannot live without a king for a day. The other important ministers all nodded in agreement. They all felt that there was almost no possibility of winning this battle. It is too dangerous for Qin Jin to stay here. If Mr. Chen and his group of Zifu realm powerhouses were to escort them, there was still a possibility of sneaking away from this place. If I run away, my morale will collapse completely, and there will be no hope of winning at all. Qin Jin shook his head, and said, if I stay here, there may still be a chance of defeating Qin Shenzhan and the others. Even if they cannot be defeated, they can still injure them severely and give the court officials time to call up troops to guard the imperial city. In the past 2 days, he has carefully considered that even if this battle is inevitable, he must severely injure Qin Xuanshan's army, so as to buy time for the officials in the imperial city to mobilize soldiers and horses to guard the imperial city. It's the best he can do. This. Hearing what Qin Jin said, General Jinan and the others looked at each other, not knowing how to persuade him, because what Qin Jin said was indeed very reasonable. At such a time, if Qin Jin leaves, his morale will inevitably collapse. Okay, don't worry about me, hurry up and set up your troops and prepare to meet the enemy. Qin Jin said slowly, it is best to destroy Li Fengqi's army before Qin Xuanshan's army arrives. Although he knew it was impossible, he could only speak encouragement now. It is good. General Jinan and several other generals nodded their heads one after another. They didn't waste any more time, and began to command the army, preparing for the battle. An hour later, a fierce battle broke out outside Yanmen Pass. The sound of fighting was deafening. On the wide-ranging battlefield, soldiers from both sides fought together, and the auras of different colors collided, bursting out bursts of aura fluctuations. Especially the battle between the generals in the sky is even more intense. Although there are wars on both sides, soldiers are still killed and fallen every moment. There were corpses everywhere, and the smell of blood filled the air, which was extremely tragic. Although the army led by Qin Jian, the number of strong people in the Purple Mansion is more, and they have an advantage, but the morale of their soldiers is too low, while the morale of the other side is high. In addition, Li Fengqi's goal was not to defeat Qin Jian's army, but to disrupt it. The battle had just begun, and the soldiers of both sides were completely fused together. Those strong men in the Purple Mansion were restrained everywhere in order to avoid harming their own soldiers. As a result, the battle between the two sides actually showed a balance of power. Jin Wang's army is coming. If you don't want to be buried with this dog emperor, stay away from the battlefield. That with his own strength, Li Fengqi alone fought against the two strong men of the same realm, and he did not fall behind, and the voice blessed by spiritual energy resounded throughout the battlefield. It wasn't just him who was shouting, all the soldiers of the Jinbei army were shouting the same. The news that King Jin's army was coming to attack them was already known to everyone, but now Li Fengqi led the Jinbei army to attack with all their might, coupled with the shouting like a tsunami. For a while, the morale of Qin Jian's army dropped even more. Some soldiers even started to flee. Haha. This dog emperor's army is vulnerable to a single blow. We can defeat it without King Jin's army coming. Among the Jinbei army, the lieutenant who was most valued by Li Fengqi and had high prestige laughed loudly. His voice was blessed by spiritual energy and spread throughout the battlefield. For a while, the morale of the Jinbei army became even higher. No, it can't go on like this. Qin Zining, who had been protecting Qin Jian all the time, saw the drastic drop in morale, and said solemnly on her pretty face. She hesitated for a moment, and her eyes locked on the lieutenant general. Great River Sword Intent. A squeak. Qin Zining directly used her strongest swordsmanship and slashed towards the general. The sword intent like a rushing river is daunting. What? The lieutenant general had just broken through the Zifu realm last month, and had been on guard against other Zifu realm experts, never expecting that Qin Zining would make a sudden move, and as soon as he came up, it was a killer move, and his face was full of panic. He turned around to escape. It's a pity that he was facing Qin Zining, who had cast a sword intent, and there was no possibility of him escaping, so he was wiped out with a single strike. Pfft. The bloody figure fell towards the ground, drawing a bloodstain in the air. Seeing that the enemy general was beheaded, the 20 troops led by General Jinan and the troops of the Imperial City camp became even more morale and fought bravely with the Jinbei army. For the next 2 full hours, extremely fierce battles were going on the battlefield. Although the morale of the Jinbei army is high, there are not many strong people in the Zifu realm, and the number of soldiers is also at a disadvantage. In the continuous battle, they finally fell into a disadvantage. What's going on? It's been 3 hours, and it's almost dark. Why hasn't King Jin's army come yet? Li Fengqi, covered in blood, roared angrily. The faces of the other lieutenants were also extremely ugly. According to the secret letter sent by King Jin, their army should have arrived half an hour ago. King Jin. Look, King Jin is here. At this moment, a lieutenant pointed to the sky in the distance, and said with great surprise. Chapter 91. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing the sound of exclamation, Li Fengqi's gaze immediately turned to the end of the sky, and found that there were indeed several figures flying over. The leader among them was Jin Wang Qin Shenzhan. Haha. King Jin is here, great. Li Fengqi laughed and said, with the support of King Jin's army, we will be able to destroy the army of the Dog Emperor immediately. Although he was curious in his heart, he didn't understand why Qin Shenzhan and several other vassals did not personally lead an army to attack Qin Jian's army from the north, but flew directly over. But he didn't think too much about it. I feel like I finally see hope. Welcome King Jin. Welcome King Jin. The soldiers of the Jinbei army, who were caught in a bitter battle, all shouted at this time. All of them were extremely excited. They were at a disadvantage before and suffered heavy casualties. Now that they saw Jin Wang and others, they felt that they could finally end this difficult battle and completely defeat the army led by Qin Jin. Qin Xuanshan's army is here, everything is over. At the same time, the soldiers led by Qin Jin all let out voices of despair. Although they didn't see Qin Xuanshan's 60 troops pouring into the battlefield, they felt that since Qin Shenzhan had already arrived, the 60 troops must have arrived as well. If they don't make a move now, they probably want to besiege rather than attack, and let them surrender directly. Morale, which was originally rising, also fell to the bottom all of a sudden. Damn it! Give us another 2 hours, it only takes 1 hour to completely defeat Li Fengqi's army. God won't help me wait. Now we can only hope that Qin Xuanshan's army will be severely damaged later. General Jinan and others, after seeing Qin Shenzhan and several other feudal lords flying over in the sky, also said very bitterly, during these 2 hours, Qin Xuanshan's army did not come. They thought it was some accident and they were delayed. So he wanted to destroy Li Fengqi's army first. When the time comes, the army will enter Yanmen Pass and guard against danger. Even if Qin Xuanshan's army arrives, there is no need to be afraid, but they didn't expect that at the critical moment when they were about to defeat Li Fengqi's army, Qin Shenzhan and the others would suddenly arrive. Zi Ning, you will find a way to leave this place later, and leave me alone. Qin Junyin's hope also fell to the bottom, and he was also a little desperate. He himself can die in battle, but his daughter has a peerless sword body with an unimaginable upper limit. He doesn't want Qin Zining to die here too. Father. Qin Zining wanted to say something else. But Qin Junyin has already pulled out the Son of Heaven sword, ready to rise into the sky, and fight Jin Wang Qin Shenzhan and the others to the death to defend the final dignity. Even if it must lose, it must be severely injured. The same is true for other generals and important ministers, who decided to make a last-ditch effort. At the same time, Li Fengqi, with a look of joy on his face, stepped on the void and quickly met Qin Shenzhan. He saluted respectfully, his voice blessed with aura, and he said slowly, "Welcome, all feudal lords." For a moment, the sound spread throughout the battlefield, and the fierce battle stopped. All eyes were on their figures in the sky. The soldiers of the Jinbei army were all so excited that they couldn't control themselves, while the soldiers of the army led by Qin Junyin were extremely desperately prepared for the final battle. However, what happened next was beyond everyone's expectations. Boom! Qin Shenzhan didn't say a word to Li Fengqi, who greeted him respectfully, and directly shot, using powerful martial skills, and killed Li Fengqi. Very suddenly, although he was only at the 9th level of Luanhai realm before his death, and he is even weaker now, but this move caught Li Fengqi by surprise, and he retreated repeatedly. "What are you doing, Prince Jin?" Li Fengqi stepped back into the distance, looked at King Jin, and shouted in disbelief. Everyone else in the battlefield was also stunned. "What's going on? Isn't Qin Shenzhan here to help Li Fengqi?" "That's right. Why did he suddenly attack Li Fengqi?" For a time, there were countless voices of surprise, whether it was the soldiers of the Jinbei army or the soldiers led by Qin Junyin. All of them were stunned and didn't understand what was going on, but Qin Shenzhan in the sky ignored Li Fengqi's question at all, and shot again. Not only him, but also the other feudal lords, as well as the strong men in the purple mansion led by them. "Qin Shenzhan, are you crazy? If you don't kill that dog emperor quickly, what are you doing to me?" Li Fengqi shouted angrily. However, what greeted him was not an answer, but Qin Shenzhan and others with even more ferocious martial arts. His face was livid, but he could only greet him with his hands. Boom boom. In the sky, a fierce battle broke out immediately. The dazzling martial arts collided, bursting out bursts of light. Qin Shenzhan and the others were very ruthless in their moves, wanting to take Li Fengqi's life with every move, making everyone on the battlefield look dumbfounded. "What are you doing in a daze? Help me quickly." Li Fengqi gritted his teeth and shouted loudly. Although it was Qin Feng's first time to control a corpse to fight, none of these feudal lords and Zifu realm powerhouses could display their Zifu realm strength. but they were not afraid of getting hurt at all, and fought with their lives. Li Fengqi couldn't stop such a fierce attack at all. Go and help the general. Several lieutenants of the Zhenbei army, as well as the two strong men in the Purple Mansion, finally came to their senses at this time, and shouted and shot. The battle in the sky suddenly became more complicated and intense. There are constantly broken limbs and broken arms, falling into the battlefield below. What the hell is going on here? Looking at this scene, Qin Jin was dumbfounded. His uncle Wang obviously brought troops to attack him from both sides. Why did he suddenly attack Li Fengqi now? I don't even know about it. Several important ministers and generals said with wry smiles. The progress of the matter completely exceeded their expectations. Your Majesty, I sent someone to check around the battlefield, and Qin Shenzhan didn't bring 60 troops at all. At this time, General Zhenan came to Qin Jianyin's side, and said respectfully, there are only Jin Wang, Qin Shenzhan and the others. As soon as Qin Shenzhan arrived, he immediately asked the deputy general to investigate the deployment of 60 troops as a response, but he did not expect that the periphery of the battlefield was completely empty. What? There is number 60 troops at all. When Qin Jianyin heard this, his face was full of disbelief, and he said, how is it possible? A few days ago, not only a secret letter from Jinyue was sent, but Jinyue Town Fusher sent many Jinyue to confirm. The news is absolutely true.